This is the Post Nihilist, and this is a video that is very pertinent to any regular watchers of YouTube videos or any form of entertainment or even news or information online. I want to talk about the subtle hypnotic state that you're put into as you're viewing this entertainment or information that you view online. In the technology age, people are used to viewing their information rather than reading their information. With technology, you can easily view a YouTube video, you can watch a video on a major news network, and receive your information that way. You're being fed the storyline, you're being fed the biases for how that particular news organization wants the story to be read. And therefore, not only do you open yourself up to consuming fiction through, novels and movies that you go to the theaters, but you also introduce or you open yourself up to fiction when you read information, or more likely in this technology age, watch information from even major news networks that have a certain bias that they're reporting the story through. So whenever you are consuming fiction, say for instance, I decide to go to the movies and watch a fiction film, I have to suspend my disbelief in order to take in the fictional environment created by the screenwriter, in order for me to immerse myself into the film. Okay, so it's like, in order to fully enjoy a fictional film, you have to immerse yourself into that fiction so that you believe that it's real for the period of time that you watch it. Okay? So that is a light, at least a light trance state, because you are entering into a false reality. You are leaving the real world and you're entering into a false reality. So you're in a sort of dream state. You enter a dream state in order to enjoy the fiction movie. So you're in a dream, a waking dream. You're in a trance, a dream world, a false reality. So every time you consume something that's fiction, whether you know it's fiction or you don't know it's fiction, whether you're watching a science fiction movie, or you're being fed information that's not true, that is affecting your mind, because your mind has to enter into that fiction in order to understand, or in order to enjoy the fictional environment that you're paying attention to. Okay, so that is a hypnotic state. So anyone can be hypnotized. Okay, don't think that hypnosis is someone waving a clock in front of your face and you falling asleep and forgetting what happened. No, being hypnotized is whenever you enter into a false reality that is not the real reality, where someone else puts you into a state where you see a false reality, where you immerse yourself into a false reality. Okay, whether it be to enjoy a film, or whether it be to fully understand false information, a whole false scenario that you're being entertained with. Okay, and like I said, again, this goes for known fiction and for fiction that you don't know is fiction, meaning that if someone is just lying to you, giving you a story and the whole story is false, if you believe that, if you believe the lie that they're telling you, if you don't know that what they're telling you is false, you still get immersed into that false reality, because you have to, in order to fully understand the storyline that they're giving you. Okay, so whenever that happens, whenever you enter a false reality, you're taken in by this false information and you incorporate it into the way that you think, whether it be to fully understand the fictional characters, or to understand a false reality that fake news has introduced to you. For whatever reason, you enter into a false reality, whether it be to enjoy the information or to fully understand the false information. You are in a hypnotic state. So for me, say I'm taking a course on a subject that is based in non-reality, that's based in a fiction. Okay, even if it's a course taught at a college or a university, say it's based in fiction, you know, not only just a literature course where you're reading fiction, but just a course that's based in fiction, you know, like the information is false. Any of the information is false. Think about these courses that you take in colleges or universities where you learn a lot of theories, okay? All of them can't be true, right? Say you're in a sociology or a psychology course and you're learning all these different theories posed by different philosophers or psychologists or sociologists. Some of them, at least some of them, are going to be false, right? Because they're all theories. They're theories, okay? So some of them are going to be false. When you read that theory, you take in the information in order to pass an exam, in order to make it cohesive in your mind and pass that exam. Whenever you take in that information in order to understand it, you're incorporating it into your worldview, and it's affecting the way you think, because you have to take it in order to spit it back out in an understandable way in order to pass a test. So even being in that classroom, even if you don't like the class, if you're taking in the information and you're trying to understand it as a cohesive whole, even if only to pass a course, you're hypnotized. Okay? This is how easy hypnosis is. That's why I'm saying anyone can be hypnotized. Don't think that you can't be hypnotized because a person can't wave a clock in front of your face and you fall asleep. Okay? It's much more subtle than that. Just like demon possession. People think that demon possession, they've been watching TV. Again, they've been watching the false reality given to them in these fictional films, and they think demon possession is crawling up walls, your head spinning around 360 degrees, you talking in a deep guttural voice. Demon possession is much more subtle. You have been hypnotized by the false reality of what demon possession is. There are a lot of people who don't seem to be demon possessed, but they will look at you with a straight face and tell you a lie. And the whole idea, demons cannot get your attention. Demons are master hypnotists, okay? They can't get and hold your attention if they are acting obviously demonically possessed. They have to seem like an authority. Understand? They have to, if you're going to hypnotize someone without their knowing it, if you're going to give them nothing but false information, you better put on a respectable facade, okay? So a person who's demon possessed can talk to you in a very respectful, a very yeah, just a respectable demeanor, you know, with a straight face, or they can seem like an authority. They're great actors. But remember, the goal of a demon, the demon inside them, is not to scare you. They don't want to scare you unless you're not on their side. What they want to do is entice you. They want to pull you in. They want to hypnotize you. So they're seducing you, okay? The same way these fictional films do. They draw you in. You know, they put on a suit, maybe, or they have a good vocabulary, or they just put on this facade of scholarship or whatever. And then they give you a fiction, a demonic fiction, a godless fiction, and you're hypnotized by it because you respect the facade, you respect the authority, you respect, you know, their manner of speech, you know, you respect their humor, you know, you respect their charisma, something about them. And the master hypnotists, the demons, draw you in that way. It's very, very subtle, and all they have to do is get you paying attention to a fiction, you know, the new age fiction, you know. I know a long time ago, well, back when I was in college, I used to read like these new age books, and they were very, very convincing. They even use Christ, the word Christ, you know, Christ consciousness to make you think. Once you see the word Christ, you know, it automatically puts you in this state, this hypnotic state of, oh, this is good because they mention the word Christ. And, you know, the Bible is associated with something good. So they slap the word Christ with consciousness, and they say Christ consciousness, and they give you this fluffy language of how we're all one, and, you know, these people who are able to transcend and, you know, write these fluffy philosophy books on how we're all one and how we're all floating into Christ consciousness. Hypnosis. They're hypnotizing you into a false reality. It sounds good. It might use all the right kind of catchphrases and trigger words that put you in the mind state of accepting. You know, they say the word Christ, or they say the word we're, or they say we're all one, and it puts you in a hypnotic trance to where you open yourself up to this philosophy and it's false. And once you open yourself up, it allows the poison, even the sweet tasting, the sweet sounding poison, to enter into you, and it's like a mind virus. It changes the way your mind processes information in the way your mind processes the world, to where you see the world as the fiction that was fed to you. So it changes your entire mind state. I'll give you an example with me, of how subtle demon possession is, and how you can be listening to someone, even like on YouTube, and they be demon possessed and not showing any of the characteristics, but you still end up in a hypnotic state. I was watching a video because I called myself, I wanted to become a demonologist. I wanted to understand the, the workings of demons, and how they are able to manipulate people through possessing influential people that are then in turn able to possess, not possess, but influence the general public. So it's like their method seems to be to possess key people in key positions, and then use those people in order to influence or hypnotize, broadcast a hypnosis on like a wide, audience. Because as you see, especially in this world of technology, they can make a superstar, and like millions and millions of people will follow this one superstar. They'll be hypnotized by this one superstar, whether it be by the fictional songs. Yes, songs can be fiction, because you can create a song about an experience you've never had. Songs can be short stories. So you can create an entire environment in a song about an experience you've never had. That's a fiction. Or you can tell people to do things in songs, like, blame it on the alcohol, like that Jamie Foxx song. You can encourage people to adopt careless, godless worldviews through songs. So songs can also be fiction, just like novels can be fiction, just like film can be fiction, just like information you take in that you think is truth, but it's actually fiction. They all have the potential, and they all do. If you give them even a little bit of your attention, they all will put you into that fictional world where you're intaking fiction, and it transforms the way you see the world in order for you to interpret the fiction that you're consuming. But if you're listening to someone who is an influencer, like for me, I call myself listening to an influential person, just to see the process of how they became possessed, and then how they in turn were able to influence other people. And so I figured, going to the source of people who I know are demonically possessed, watching them on YouTube to see the process of them becoming demonically possessed and then influencing other people, because I wanted to master, how this happens, so I can warn people and help people avoid, becoming demonically possessed. Well, I caught myself, going to a YouTube video of a person who I knew was possessed, and I started listening to the video, and the video had meditation music in the background, okay, like very soothing, calming meditation video. Mind you, I wanted to go to the primary source, so I watched a video by a person who was possessed, but who didn't know they were possessed, because I didn't want to watch a video of someone who was knowingly deceiving me, but someone who had become possessed and the demon was using without their knowledge. Okay, so I'm listening to this person who, in my view, didn't know that they were demonically possessed, and they have this meditation music playing in the background, right? And they're talking about, new age stuff, of how, you create your own reality, and you call on your own personal angels, and they're like servants, and they'll do whatever you say, and anything you ask they'll do. And if you ask something that he was saying, like, if you ask something that's for the greater good, then it'll be granted automatically or immediately. But if you ask something that's selfish, like he said, he used the example, if you ask for a strip club, he said in his worldview, his new age godless worldview, he said if you ask for a strip club, it'll be granted, but it'll take a long time, because it's not for the greater good. So this is in his new age godless, we're all, we can be gods type understanding of how the world works. Okay, so he was already, already knew he's in a false reality. He's in this new age false reality that tells people that they can become God, that they have no limits, they can become God. They float into this like Christ consciousness state. Okay, and he was also mixing in Bible verses, but he didn't know the Bible. He was guessing. He even said cleanliness is next to godliness, which is not biblical, but he thought it was in the Bible because he hasn't read the Bible. So the clue number here's a clue. People who become demon possessed and don't know they're possessed don't know the Bible. So he didn't know the Bible. He was guessing at biblical verses. He was saying, well, I think it's in the Bible for certain things. I think Jesus said this. I think Jesus says that. Like I said, the cleanliness is next to godliness, which isn't in the Bible. He didn't know. He didn't know what was in the Bible and what wasn't. He was guessing, okay? Conventional knowledge. So he didn't know the Bible. So I just thought it was like, I was like, oh, it's kind of sad that he became demon possessed, and he was misled by demons, and they influenced him with this new age garbage. And I thought I was really learning something. I was like, okay, this new age, because I had listened to new age philosophy, back in my when I was younger. So I kind of identified with them. I was like, yeah, this new age philosophy can get you on the wrong path, okay? So I was watching this video, and towards the end of it, it was about 20 minutes long. Towards the end of it, I had this uncontrollable desire to laugh, but it wasn't random laughter. It was like I was given the thought of, I was given biblical information, but I was made to laugh about it, like serious biblical things that led to either punishment or death, but I was laughing about it. This was the last few minutes of this video, and I was like, why do I think this is funny? Why are these biblical texts or these biblical events playing over and over in my mind, and why am I finding them funny? This is something that I would never find funny. But it was just like an uncontrollable desire to laugh at biblical serious events that led to either death or just two events actually that led to either punishment or death. But I found them funny. Like they were twisted around in my mind to where they became like temporarily funny for me. So the last like maybe 2 minutes of this video, and then 10 minutes after the video ended, I was finding these two serious biblical events funny. Like something in my mind was twisting them around to where they became funny, like twisting them and providing images that connected them with something funny. And so like I just giggled, for about, it seemed like about 10 minutes after the video ended. And then after that, I could find nothing funny about them. I was demon possessed temporarily from watching that video. I listened to the whole video of this demoniac, this guy who I knew was demonically possessed, and throughout the video, he was very relaxed. He had this music playing in the background. It was meditation music, and he seemed to stumble around and not really know Bible verses, but he seemed to have this positive new age vibe going on where, oh, poor thing, he was misled, and he thought he was giving us positive new age information, but it was godless. And I just thought it was harmless. I thought I'm objectively learning about this demoniac who didn't know he was a demoniac. And if I learn about the process of how he became possessed, and then how through him this demon was able to possess other people, if I learn about that, then I'll be able to warn people. But what ended up happening is I myself was temporarily possessed to where the last 2 minutes of the video, and for only 10 minutes afterwards, I found something serious in the Bible funny. Two events in the Bible funny, and I chuckled about it for about 10 minutes afterwards. And what I realized was that I was put into a trance, into a hypnotic state, where for those 10 minutes after that video ended, like the last 2 minutes and then 10 minutes after, I was given the mind of the demon that had possessed him. So in watching all I had to do was watch his video. All I had to do was give him my attention. Like I was saying before, you give your attention to fiction. If you give your attention to this fiction, it will put you into a trance. I listened to that meditative music. I watched him talk for that 20 minutes. I was put into a light trance to where I lost control of myself. I couldn't help but chuckle about these serious events. I couldn't help those images from replaying in my head for those 10 minutes and me chuckling about it, because for those 10 minutes, I was given the mind of the demon, or the influence. The demon temporarily gained influence over me because I gave it my attention for those 20 minutes. You understand what I'm saying? I was put into a trance state, even though I had no intention of being put into a trance state, because I gave this known demoniac And this guy he killed some people and then he was killed. But I knew he was a demoniac before I even watched the video. But I watched it because I called myself doing primary research to become more of a demonologist, to understand the workings of demons. And so I called myself, watching a known demoniac to get objective information. But it couldn't remain objective. It became subjective because in giving him my attention, the demon gained temporary access to me. So that's to show you that I don't care if you're born again. I don't care if you read the Bible every day. If you give your attention to someone on YouTube, someone who writes a book, someone who presents news to you, and they're a demoniac, they're giving you false information, then you open yourself up to a trance state. Anytime you consume something that is fiction, anytime you consume something that is anti-God, you open yourself up to a trance state. Luckily, that trance state only lasted for about 10 minutes for me, where I lost control. I temporarily lost control of my body to where I could not help but chuckling about something that is not funny. I don't even understand how. That's the thing. Like, the demon gained temporary control over me because I don't even understand how I would have ever thought that was funny. But what had happened was I temporarily lost my control because I was in a trance state. When you think about a trance state, when you're asleep, when I'm asleep at least, I can't control what I dream about. If I'm moving around in my sleep, I can't control. I'm in a different state. You understand? Like, I'm not cognizant of what I'm doing while I'm asleep. I'm not in control of what images play in my mind. And in watching that video by a known demoniac, I was put into a trance state to where up to 10 minutes after that video played, I didn't have control over my body. The demon that was in him had control over my body. So the lesson here is that, first of all, rely on the Bible and rely on God. Don't go out, don't call yourself watching demonically possessed people in order to gain insight into the dark world, into the dark forces, because what will end up happening is whatever demons are in them will end up possessing you. Okay, so when you do research, make sure you do research on the Bible and you rely on God to give you that information. Because if you call yourself going to demons and people who follow that dark path in order to understand, even for me, like trying to expose it, if you go to people who are on the dark path and want them to become your teacher so you can understand how the dark path is, they're going to deceive you. Maybe they'll give you 30% truth, but most of the stuff that they're going to give you is going to be false. Even if they give you 50% false, how are you going to know for sure what 50% is true and what 50% is false? Their job is to deceive you. And on top of deceiving you, you're going to become demonically possessed. Luckily for me, it only lasted for 10 minutes. So God could show me this is what happens when you rely on demoniacs for your wisdom and for your understanding. This is what will happen to you. You'll become like them. They won't give you the insight you crave. You'll become like them. Okay? So you need to, if you want to understand anything that you want to understand, you need to go to God too. Don't go to people who are demonically possessed. Don't go to fiction writers to understand the world. You need to go to the Bible and you need to go to God. And because demonic possession is all too common, hypnosis is all too common, and anyone can become demonically possessed, anyone can become hypnotized, and it's as simple as reading something that's not true, or listening or watching something that's not true.